All right, I'm very excited about today because Zane gave us a great fourplex that he's working on that is going to be a great case study for us to go through. And we've got a lot of feedback on it. Uh, Zane, have there been any developments since you shared it with us last weekend?
Well, I visited the property with my agent and I met the owner. So I get a feel about what is the real looks like. And it's in the really kind of upcoming area. It's underdeveloped, but there's a more development around that specific fourplex. So I had a good feeling about it. Obviously, I had to kind of come down to um, the number and all the overall makes sense. There's some surprise I can tell you for sure.
No, good, good. We're going to get into it and we'll share it. That will be the case study we do at the end of the call today, kind of like last time we did the review of Shelbyville. So we'll get into that at the end. Oh, looks like Lindsay dropped but came back.
I'm trying to use my trying to use different camera, but I don't know. I have it.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm at my mom's house and she lives in this like literally 1700s build place, and the internet only works in kind of 1.5 rooms here. I was trying in the kitchen, but the internet was unstable. So I'm back.
Forgiven. No problem. All right, guys, we're gonna jump in because Lionel, we always end up talking and I love it. But I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So we'll jump right in. There's new portal in the new content in the portal, which I'll share with you. We're gonna review module 3 today. And then at the last thing for the call, we're going to review the fourplex that Zan recently found and go through some of the numbers and some of the initial feedback on it. So you guys can get a really hands-on experience with what we look for when we first see these things. Okay, so the new portal content. 3.1.1, I know all of you have already watched the module 3, so sorry it was posted a little late, but if you will go back and watch 3.1.1, it's determining an offer price. It's a lesson that we did on how to determine if you're paying the right price for a single family home. And honestly, whether you're buying a rental property or you're buying a primary residence, this is really good knowledge to have. I can't tell you how many real estate agents I've met that don't know how to properly comp.
Yes.
And they will tell you, oh, when you're done renovating, it's going to be worth 2.5 million. And it's not even close. Like nothing in the area has ever sold for 2.5 million. So there's a lot of agents that are going to try to upsell you just so they can get deals done. So this is actually a really important skill set to have, again, whether you're buying a rental or you're buying your own primary residence. So certainly watch that. It's not very long, like 15 minutes, but I think it's a really impactful lesson. And then module 4.5.1, for those that have already gone ahead and watched module 4, please go back. We have a module that was uploaded as well. Oh, sorry. It was a module that was uploaded on how to create a loan package for a commercial loan. That's if you're buying a 5-plex or bigger. And it also goes into how to break down your construction work, and it's really fantastic. So make sure if you've already watched module 4 that you go back and you watch 4.5.1.
Yeah, it's really important. So many times we go to banks and we hand them this loan package, and every single one of them is always so impressed with Michael putting this together. We even had to challenge our property taxes one time on one of our properties, and they always say you should get your own lawyer and go. Michael made this beautiful package, and the judge said this is the best thing that we've seen. Like even lawyers don't present this as good as you did. So it's very comprehensive what he does for the loan packages. He's basically doing their work for them. And we always get what we ask for on the refinance prices too.
So I actually want to bring that up because this is on our primary residence. You can contest your property taxes. We got $1,000 back. It just got the check just arrived by contesting our property taxes. So whether it's a rental, I don't know if New York City is anything like Los Angeles, but they're constantly raising your property taxes. And then if you contest it, very frequently they'll drop them and then give you a refund. So that's not just, obviously that's anywhere, but bear in mind, a lot of people don't realize they can go to the county assessor office and contest their property tax increase. And both Lindsay and I have been successful in getting those prices down. So
yeah, they only do that once a year. So make sure you know when the schedule is, because you have to apply beforehand. Otherwise, you miss that whole year of your tax cycle.
Yeah. Okay, and then I wanted to share this video because I know we started off by
everyone in the world who's successful.
I'm sorry.
Would you say
I'm just gonna go back because it doesn't like me. We asked you guys all to create vision boards, and I saw this video, and obviously I'm a fan of Oprah, but I saw this video and I really wanted to share it because this is why we started the whole thing with creating a vision board, because it's just so important to know where you're going in order to actually get there. And so anyways, I saw this video of Oprah and I wanted to share it with you all.
I've talked to everyone in the world who's successful. What would you say is the one common characteristic that you find gets people to where they want to go?
The most important question is, the people get to where they want to go because they know where they want to go. Wow. Most people don't know where they want to go. A lot of people are going and being driven by what they think they should do,
right,
what other people say they should do, what they have carried in their mind for a long time they should do. But the most important question you can ever ask yourself is, what do I really want?
Wow.
And the answer to that, once you can establish for yourself what the answer to that is, and have everything you do, every choice you make, move you in the direction of what you say your vision is.
Right.
Yeah. And when you do that, the forces of life rise up to meet you. The reason why most people have such chaotic lives is because they're living in chaos in their head. And as soon as you get clear, it clears up.
So I really love that quote because it's something that I've had to learn. And I think the idea of just creating that vision board like we started with, knowing where you want to go and having that clear picture, I think it's just so important, not only to this and what you're doing here with us, but for whatever it is you're trying to get done in life. So wanted to share that. Any questions before we jump into module 3? No? Okay. I'm not going to dive into all of the details. Obviously, it was an extremely robust module. And obviously, if you have any questions at any point, if I skip something that you actually had a question on, just let us know. But it was very robust. There's a lot of information in there. And I hope you guys all got to also see the additional modules that we did on underwriting and cash flow. And then now the additional one I just put in there on comping, because it really does help bring it all together. So of course, we always have to have our quotes in here. Real estate cannot be lost or stolen, nor can it be carried away. Purchase with common sense and manage with care. It's the safest investment in the world. As what's amazing with real estate is if you just stay in it long enough, even the people who lost their shirts in 07, 08, 09, 10, even those people who just lost their shirts in terms of value, all gained it back, and then some, in the subsequent 10 years. So that's one of the reasons we also really like this particular asset class.
It's the compound effect, right? I mean, well, the best time to buy a house was always 5 years ago. So hindsight's always 2020. You can always think, well, what if the rates drop more? What if, but just start now, because there's another quote too. It's a year from now, you'll wish you have started today. So the sooner you start, you're going to have the compound effect sooner too.
Yeah. Taylor and I had a call this past weekend, and I was talking to her about, kind of getting through some of those nerves. But I told her, there is no world where in 10 years you're going to look back and be like, dang, I should not have bought that real estate. Like there's no world, even if things go to hell, but in 10 years, it's all going to come back and you're going to say, wow, I'm so glad I did that. So, really it is just a matter of pushing yourself forward. So again, I'm going to go very high level on the module 3 stuff, because I really do want to get into the case study today. So but please stop me if I glossed over something and there's something you want to dive into. So overview, when you're talking about single family rentals, personal rentals, anything 4 units or under is considered personal rental, and you're going to be comping it, meaning figuring out the value based on comparable properties in the area. That's very different than multifamily. Multifamily, you're looking at the net income, net operating income, and with these, you're looking at comps in the area. Again, go back to that 3.1.1 lesson we added so that you can really get good at comping.
It's so important with single family because, I mean, like Lauren just said, with multifamily 5 and above units, it's based on your net operating income. And Michael and I, on one of our 4 units that we had bought, we got 125% out or 127% out. However, if it was a 5 unit, we would have got a lot more on because we increased the rent so much and we redid everything. However, in the whole local vicinity, there was nothing else that was comparable. The closest 4 units, they were still like very outdated and everything. So they had to base it off of those and not just what we were actually getting rent wise. So what we thought we were going to get out based on the NOI isn't what we actually got out because it is a single family 4 unit based on the comp. So that was an early lesson that we learned.
I have a question. So for the single family, I just wanted to clarify if this like this house has a more than 4 unit, is it considered commercial?
Yes. Yeah. If it's 5 or above units, it's commercial.
But then between this single family versus multi-family, and what's the like a unit, what is a particular unit, more than particular unit to consider?
So you can use the term, I don't want to say interchangeably because people will still say multifamily like advertised and it's just a duplex, but in the actual underwriting and what the bank is going to value and assess, there is a very legal definition of 1 to 4 units is still in that single family home class, even though you can still say like triplex, quad, and it is a multifamily unit, but it's not based on that. It's not on the NOI unless it's 5 or more units.
I have another question. If it is a commercial property, like a multifamily, then I guess the depreciation rate is how many years? 39 years. When does that depreciation year start at, like when the house was built or from the day you purchased the property?
From the day you purchase it. So if I bought a house today and I resold it in a year from now, when I sell, that's when you're going to get taxed unless you do a 1031 to recapture all that. But the new owner gets the same thing. The clock is reset for every new owner.
And not only that, Jose, if you were to, like, God forbid, if we were to pass away, the depreciate and then pass on the property to your heir, the depreciation calculation restarts. So it's pretty incredible. I've seen a lot of people, especially here in Los Angeles, just passing their apartment buildings down to their heirs, and then that depreciation clock restarts and they stop, they're still not paying taxes. So
it's a great question.
It's really great. Yep.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so understanding basics of underwriting, we went through a little bit of that last week too. In the modules you saw, we got, Michael got really granular on a couple of different types of properties, and I did too. So, underwriting and value. When you're underwriting, you're evaluating the potential revenue against the expenses. You're looking at rental income, maintenance, insurance, property taxes, vacancy rates, and then you're also considering maintenance reserves, because you just never know. I got a nice big HVAC bill from one of my rentals today, so you just never know when things are coming.
Yep.
Okay, and then getting into the key financial metrics. As we said, the cap rate is net operating income over the property value or divided by the property value. That cap rate varies tremendously by geography. Over on the coast, particularly Los Angeles, New York, you're looking at very low cap rates, like at 3-4%. Even if debt costs you 6 or 7%, you're still looking at these really low cap rates, and then they get higher. So, and generally, if you're a buyer, you'd like to see those higher cap rates. And then cash flow, income minus expenses minus your mortgage. It's very simple. Again, that's why a lot of people start with single family, because it's just very simple to understand. And
cap rate and property values are inverse of each other. So low cap rate equals high property value. Low property value equals higher cap rate. So like Lauren said, it really varies tremendously. Earlier today, like 2 hours ago, I was just on the phone with a local guy in Kingston, PA, and it's a 60 unit. So I'm pretty hopeful. The guy's a pretty motivated seller, but he said, yeah, I think my building, I want to get $8 million for it. And he told me what the average rents were, $1,100. So He probably thought I didn't know as much as I do because we had just started the conversation, but I was like, okay, 1,100 times 60. I was like, all right, over 700,000, assuming 50% operating expense divided by 8 million. I was like, ooh, you're trying to sell at a 4.95% cap rate. And he was like, I was like, yeah, it's not worth that. But I mean, the guy's still motivated, but it's very, very quick calculations that you can do. So you need to get familiar with these terms and calculations.
And then, so vacancy allowance, 5 to 10% is pretty standard in underwriting, as you probably saw. Capital expenditure, just reserves in general, you're going to want to keep that 5 to 10% in reserves. A general rule of thumb I've heard a number of people say is that they want to keep 3 months worth of expenses in the bank account always before they start taking draws. I mean, that's just kind of a benchmark that a lot of people go with. I like that as well. 3 months to 6 months really just depends on the size of the property, but you always want to be keeping those reserves.
Some banks will make you have 6+ months. There's some really conservative banks, they'll even say up to 12 months. That can be negotiable, but a bank, if you're doing financing, they're definitely going to have their limit of reserves that you need to have before they'll let you buy.
Yeah, on one that we bought earlier this year, it was 60% occupied, and the bank wanted 18 months worth of mortgage payments sitting in the bank before we could close. So, but that was a very, very distressed sale. So, but you just don't know. But as you get into it, the bank may help you kind of determine where those reserves should sit. So module 3.2, investment strategies. A lot of this we've kind of gone through, but we want to speak to it again. The 1% rule, we've spoken about that a lot over the past calls. 2% rule works the same way as the 1% rule. In your area, Lindsay, do you focus more on 2% rule?
We definitely focus more on the 2% just because the property value is lower, and we can obviously get properties for a lot cheaper than you can in California. So yeah, we generally go by the 2% rule.
Okay, great. And then the 50% rule, half of the gross income generated by the rental should be allocated, as we said, to expenses when determining profitability. This is not hard and fast. I think the lowest expense ratio I've seen is 30% of the revenue. But 50%, if you're, as Lindsay just did, if you're quickly going through it in your head, just assume that. Just assume that expenses are going to be 50% of your gross revenue.
It's just a real quick like napkin underwriting just to even see if you're in the ballpark. If you have a turnkey that you're buying and it's managed well, it's going to be less than that versus some of these buildings that we're looking at. They're mom and pops, like C-class, really deferred capital expenditures and everything, and you can be some of the T12s we get, they're up to like 70% expenses, but that's a good thing because there's a lot of areas that you can shave that off and really make that property worth more. But yeah, just off the bat 50% before you dig into the T12s.
And as a reminder, for the T12 is the income and expenses for the past 12 months.
The trailing 12 is what they call it, T12.
And then we talked about this, like turnkey versus value add. And I'm sure at this point, a lot of you have an idea of what kind of properties you'd be most interested in. The fourplex that Zan brought, that is more of a turnkey, right? A lot of it's already been renovated. It looks pretty good. That's a great first rental. But then there's also the heavy lifts that Lindsay and her husband always do. So it really just depends on what your risk appetite is.
Mm-hmm.
And as we said, the pros of turnkeys, that you've got a immediate rental income and more predictable expenses and are overall lower risk. But the cons are that it's a higher initial investment and you have limited appreciation potential. Then there's the value add, which the pros are much higher return potential, also a lot more risk. And then there's opportunity to increase the value, what they call forced appreciation, through the remodel. But again, there's a lot more risk associated with that, and not everyone has the stomach for it. Those would be more of the cons. You got to be really active in it, and it requires more capital up front. Okay, and then 3.3 rental strategies. There's the short-term rentals, medium-term rentals. Short term is 30 days or under. Medium term is 1 month. it's temporary housing. I actually looked at a property, a 12 unit with, it was full of midterm rentals. It was a lot of traveling nurses that lived in them, and they would stay for 3 to 4 months at a time. That's what they generally consider midterm rentals. Short-term rentals are 30 days and under. So most people are more familiar with those. Those are the Airbnbs, VRBOs that you see people, the short-term rental side, but medium term, I think it's a nice alternative to the short-term rental, because short-term rentals, you're constantly turning and cleaning, and it's a lot of maintenance, whereas midterm, they're moving every 3 to 4 months. So you're turning that unit less frequently.
You can still usually get a little bit higher than market rents for the midterm, just because, yeah, you don't have a full year contract. So,
yeah. And then you've got long-term rentals, which is what we all kind of know, right? The 1 year plus. And so regulatory considerations are a huge deal when it comes to short-term rentals. If any of you are considering short-term rentals or turning, buying a fourplex, let's say, and turning a unit into a short-term rental, please check the regulatory requirements. I mean, I cannot tell you how many people I have heard of losing their shirts on buying a property they assumed they could turn into a short-term rental, and they couldn't. And it was a financial fiasco.
I'll tell you a personal story that we're going through right now. We have this hotel / short-term / hostel / bar, little casino in Fox Lake, Chicago. And when we bought it, we've had it for 2 years in October, and this was a very heavy lift. A lot of the busy season is during the summer. It's right on the lake. It's beautiful, but in the winter it's dead. There's not tourists coming. So the last 2 years we've been doing these midterm rentals, and the city just passed a law this summer that said there's no more midterm rentals. They have to be in this property 30 days or less, which is really stressing us out. So there's negotiations back and forth with the city, but this is a huge regulatory consideration that they're trying to not let it be grandfathered in. So, yep.
This is overall, guys, my issue with short-term rentals. Like, yep. You're so at the whim of the city, of the county, of the state. I mean, you're just, normally it's a very local decision, but either way, you're very much at the whim of the local municipalities. So if you're considering short-term rental, make sure it works as a long-term rental, the numbers. So if you do need to turn it into a long-term rental because the city put the kibosh on your plan, you can do that, and you can still cash flow and make money. So
are you guys from looking for, how do you like screen those tenant yourself, or I mean, I'm not talking about the short term. I think the short term rental, you can go like Airbnb or VRBO, but for the medium term or long term, how, like, do you have a personally screen the tenant, or you kind of have some kind of a agency help you, or soliciting or screening the tenants?
Yeah, you can do it a lot of ways, and there's another module that gets more into that later on in the course. But we do have, and for the midterm tenants too, because they are tenants, and if they're bad, they can squat there. So like Michael has a minimum 600 credit score, no prior felonies, no prior evictions. We do let pets with certain breed considerations just based on insurance. So yeah, we do have a full checklist, and we can also put that, I think it is in the module, but if it's not on the supplemental resources yet, we can exactly for our criteria that we use. But yes, we screen every tenant, and you should be screening every single tenant. Obviously not the short-term rentals, because yeah, those are just going to be like for a couple days at a time and stuff.
Do you ever require your midterm renters or even long to carry, I guess it's rental insurance?
Not for the midterm rentals. The long term, we do have that part of the lease contract, but not for the midterm. That's not to say you can't.
And what is I mean, have you ever had to use it, or is there, like, can you give an example of the benefit? Because I was kind of seeing that, and I have a midterm rental myself, and I was like, oh, I should probably.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen, right? I mean, there could be a leak. We had one unit in one of our 4-unit buildings that there had been some mold issue, and they were long terms, and they used their tenant insurance I guess they hadn't gone in that room for a couple months. I don't know. But other than that, I don't know of any tenants that had used that.
I would absolutely have them do it, Taylor, from a liability standpoint more so. It's
actually inexpensive too.
It is, yeah, it's very cheap.
It's so cheap, and the protection is huge. And I had someone who I knew, like a little girl grabbed a coffee pot off the counter, and it like burned her and it was a liability claim, and the poor little girl needed all this work done, medical care, and the owners of the home were held liable because it just happened on their property, even it was their rental. So absolutely, for everyone, I would say require insurance of your tenants. It's really important. I had a backup in one of my rentals, and it just flooded. And my tenant came to me and said, "Okay, well, I have all my stuff got damaged." I was like, "Well, your rental agreement
Yep.
says that is your job."
Yep.
And I took care of. I mean, my insurance took care of everything else. But I was happy to have that agreement in
Yep.
place. And I knew they had insurance. I'm like, "You call your insurance company. I'm not replacing your couch."
Yep.
So it's important,
Thank you.
especially these people. They're very fancy. Your couch is more expensive than mine. Absolutely not. Okay, and then the BRRRR strategy, which we know we've spoken about quite a bit. And if any of you are doing the BRRRR strategy, you book a call with Lindsay,
My
because she's
favorite.
her favorite, and she's done so many of them. But you know, you buy the property at a discount, you rehab it, you rent it, you refinance, try to pull out every dollar that you put into it, and then you reinvest everything into a new property. So this is how, you know, they're 25-year-olds buying 20 houses a year, which one of our friends, Wyatt Simon, did. Because he had no money, but he just did the BRRRR strategy to buy like 20 different rentals. So and he did that for multiple years. So
You can truly do this on anything from a single family home to these big syndication deals that we do, because it's the same principle. You buy a 100-unit property for a discount, you rehab it, the units, then you rent them to market, you go to the bank and refi. I mean, all the GP deals that Lauren and I on together, you know, Sharpline and everything, that is the goal, to do a refinance within 2 years. And so you can do this on anything. The principles are all the same to tenants. So I really encourage everyone to buy the book, The BRRRR Method by David Green, or listen to it on audiobook. It's phenomenal. I give it when I do my meetups. I actually buy a couple copies and I like give them away on raffles at the meetups that we do. I love the book. It's so good.
And Liza, this is what I would suggest for you getting into for your proceeds from the condo. Like, if you could move your money into a different BRRRR every 2 years, I mean, you're talking about buying 5 properties in the next 10 years without any additional capital in place. So this is important for you. I mean, for you, if that's the route you decide to go, and we'll talk about it more on our call.
I have maybe like not, I don't know, this might be a dumb question, but does it only work when the rate goes down, or how?
Nope, it doesn't. As long as you are buying. So there's a single family lake house that Michael and I got, and this is a good example. So we bought it off market for $126,000. It was completely fully furnished when we bought it. To date, this property, we actually didn't have to do anything other than Michael took out 1 bedroom upstairs that had carpet and put like laminate floor in himself. It was like $500 to do it or something ridiculous. And within a year, we did nothing else. We increased the rent and we went to the bank, and it ended up appraising for like 260 or something ridiculous. And we got all our money out on it too. So you don't have to do it when the rates drop. You can just, if you buy right, that's number one. Or even if you're buying, you know, at market, if you know that you can rehab and increase the rents, you can still get your money out with the refi. So there's different ways to do this. Ideally, you buy off market for cheap, you rehab it, and then you increase the market rents, and the rates drop. You know, that's the perfect trifecta, but it does not have to be just when rates are dropping.
That is a dream scenario that a lot of us are hoping on, you know.
Yeah.
That the properties we bought over the past couple of years that we're renovating, not only have we increased the value through the renovation, but we'll be able to refinance at a lower interest rate and kind of have a double win there.
Mhm.
And when you wanna like rehab, like what do you like specifically looking for? Like, are you looking for really bad condition, but still like what are you looking when you buy those like because I would love to do this, but like I feel like I'm still looking for something that is still looking nice. Like I don't know what is your like a picking point of, yeah, this is like a really good house that I can rehab, because I feel like if it's too horrible, then you're going to just spend so much money to fix it.
Yeah, I wouldn't
so
suggest that. And that's what Michael and I were doing in the beginning. We didn't have any specific buy box. We were just buying crappy properties and we were, too stupid to think anything different. We're just like, yeah, it looks like crap. We can fix it. And we did, but it was very, very, very stressful. So there's a sweet spot, right? Because a lot of people buy on emotions and they want that turnkey, but something that the bathrooms are outdated. Maybe there's some ceiling tiles, that need to be fixed. Maybe they have like old shag carpets, but it's still livable. Those are the type of properties I'd kind of encourage you to look at, not ones that have like a full like hole in the roof or, all the windows are broken or something like that, or in a D class. Again, we've done it and I don't suggest that, especially, just for the headaches alone. So you want to look for the house that maybe the grass is taller than it should be in the neighborhood block, but it's a nice neighborhood, and reach out to that owner if you're going to do like direct mail campaigns, that kind of stuff. Things that you might not want to move in directly yourself is the things that you should be targeting, because those are the ones other buyers are going to pass up too, because they're thinking, oh, that's too much headache. I don't want to buy that.
and then like when you want to rehab it, like do you match to the neighborhood? Like how much you want to spend money to rehab? Like do you do like a minimum, or like, because I feel like the one that you did rehab is looks so beautiful.
Yep. We try so you don't want to, so if it's like a C-class neighborhood, you don't want to be putting granite countertops in and like the super high end, because all the houses around, like the person that's buying that or renting out that luxury apartment, they're going to walk out of their house and there's going to be, bad cars on the street. They're not going to want to live there anyway. So there's a fine balance, right? Michael and I, we try to definitely make it clean, definitely make it livable. And obviously we do renometer and the comps, and then we wanted to look just a little bit above, because psychologically people will pay. There are some people that even if it's like a $20 difference in their mind, psychologically, they'll want that one just because they think they're getting the best, but you don't want to go too much above. At the same time, you don't want to have the shittiest one on the block and be like the scumlord either. So we try to match to the surroundings. Now I said about those lake houses, all the houses around there are all like nice, very luxury finishes. So yes, we're going to have to, match that level, but we're not going to do that like in the middle of Sherman Street, where we're at in the middle of Wilkes-Barre, for that. But we want to make sure that they're looking a little bit nicer than the average around them.
I have a follow-up question. So just follow up with the previous question. Do you guys have some kind of absolutely red flag for those rehab property that you definitely don't want to kind of touch on? Something like
foundation issues. We have lost money, that we have like hard money on deals that we were going to buy as is, and we found big foundation issues. That is a big red flag. Major plumbing issues is another one that we'd be very, very leery about. Apartments where it's a huge asbestos renovation, we've had to do that because we didn't know on a property, and I would be very hesitant doing that again, especially if it's a big multifamily. I mean, my God, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars to properly remove that. So those are some of the major red flags that I'd be very cautious about.
And for the refinance, there's a step for reappraisal, right? What is usually the appraiser looking at, like to make? I just want to see from their perspective, like if they wanted to achieve like a higher value, what they actually.
The new module that Michael just recorded today, the module 4 point whatever, the bank comp package, Michael goes through that. That's what literally Michael makes this package, hands it to the bank and hands it to the appraiser, and like everything in there is what they look for. Like Michael does their job for them. So you'll see in there exactly what things that they're looking for.
And also module 3.1.1 that was uploaded today, that talks about after repair value. That's something that's really important to watch too, because it says, what are they looking for? They're looking at comparables in the neighborhood. If it's a single family home, they're going to look at, okay, generally speaking, a totally remodeled home in this area sells for $200 a square foot. All right, well then that's going to be, if you totally remodel it, it will be worth $200 a square foot when it's done. So that's appraisers are generally, they're looking at those comparables when we're talking about 4 units and under. But
quick question.
Oh, go ahead. Hi.
Go ahead, Lauren.
Well, the package that Michael, the example in 4.5.1, that example is on a commercial property. It's on an 8 unit, but the idea is the same. It's exactly regardless of which, just a little more complex than a single family. Yes, go ahead, Irfan.
What are the indicators you look for when you offer someone initial offer? Let's suppose if you're driving to a neighborhood and you think that's the indicators as Lindsay just said it, the grass is higher, might be they're not take care of some external things. What you're looking for might be it's a good house to offer them. There's any specific indicators? How do you make your decision? Let's go and offer this person a deal off the market.
So just reach out, send them a letter. We have this prop finder software that probably won't have time to get into it today, but I'm going to be doing a literally guided module on how to use the prop finder online to literally type in any property address, get their information, use Spokio, how to reverse to get their contact information. And I have literally a letter that I use on all my direct mail campaigns. You just change their name, change the address. You say, hey, if you ever thought about selling your property, I'd love to open up a conversation about it. It's a pretty simple mailer, and you just ask.
That mailer is going to be in the module, and it's very effective. Lindsay provided it to a local agent, even here in Los Angeles, and I haven't even gotten to tell you, Lindsay, but they get lots of responses on it. So
I literally, that's how the guy with the 60 unit that I just talked to today, I sent him an email earlier today, and he reached back out, and I found his email. He actually said, he's like, how did you get my information? I was like, haha, it's public information, but.
But let's suppose if I'm in let's suppose look into my neighborhood, that's the software you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's any external indicators we need to look driving down some neighborhood, and that's always look for this indicators, and then go from there. Do you have any specific, just by the look
things
at
that
the
just
property?
looked, I mean, you can't judge a book by its cover, but things that look like they're unkempt, like if a roof has moss on it, if it looks like it hasn't been repainted, if the grass is a little higher, something they're not taking care of it. Maybe it's an older owner and they can't physically do it, so they're feeling the stress of being a homeowner. Maybe they don't have the money to do it, and if they don't have that money, they might be back on taxes, that kind of stuff. So I look for signs of distress physically on the property, because then it's more likely it's a distressed owner. Or maybe they are the owner that's renting it out, and they're bad tenants, and that landlord is just sick of it. Like you never know unless you reach out to them. But that's kind of what I look for. Things that look like they're distressed on the outside, it's more likely they'll be distressed owners on the other end of that phone call, text, or email.
Perfect.
Question.
That's distressed owner. And
another thing that at the beginning we actually asked mailmen that were local to us. There's a term called bird dog. So literally you ask people to be on the lookout for you, and you have to look at the state. I don't know if this is legal in California and Pennsylvania. It still is. We literally said, hey, if you bring us a property that we end up buying, we'll give you a $500 like finder's fee, basically. So we had mailmen coming up to Michael saying, oh, hey, this property, I remember there was one on Pine Street. We actually were talking to the seller. He's like, yeah, the grass, that's what he said. He's like, the grass is tall. Like I deliver mail. Like some days it's like big stacks of mail. So we actually reached out. We didn't end up buying it for other reasons, but we had a mailman giving us properties, and who better that's going to see properties every day than a mailman, right? So it's just thinking creatively, that blue ocean strategy outside the box. Yeah.
That is legal in California.
There you go.
Although the finder fee needs to be $5,000, but same idea.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And ever in your experience, whenever you find a property off the market, you always make money, or sometimes you end up losing money too, even off the market deal?
Well, we're not going to buy it unless our numbers make sense. So there's been, my God, I don't even know how many hundreds of properties we have looked at, and I've talked to people. but we don't buy all of them. Obviously, just because somebody answers my letter in the mail doesn't mean that they could be delusional with their price, and a lot of times they are. Or we get into inspections and we had to walk away just last year from, like I said, a big foundation issue. So all the ones that we bought have been okay. That doesn't mean we've not had stressful days or lost money. Like the asbestos house that I said about the lake, like that was a $5,000 fee we didn't calculate. We didn't know that at the time, but you still want to do all your due diligence before you're buying a house. I strongly encourage everybody to get inspections no matter what. You might have to walk away. I mean, the inspection, you have to pay for that up front, right? So like we've had to pay a couple $1,000s several times on properties that we ended up walking away from, but no deal is better than a bad deal. So
I receive a call, almost every other day, and they mostly leave a message on my cell phone. I'm interested in your property, and there's no closing cost, and this and that. Because I'm overseas. Whenever I turn on my phone, and mostly goes on to voice message.
okay.
And I know these are the off-market buyers, and they especially mention no closing costs at this and that. We will take care of everything.
Yeah, so that's just to grab your attention. I mean, I've used that. I've tested out different letters in the past too. And I mean, that's fine. That's really people that are distressed sellers, they're looking for any extra dollar. They want an easy transaction, right? So if you can say, "Hey, I'm selling this off. I'm gonna buy this off market." Another thing that I used to say, no realtor fees, so you can save that 6%. I know that law has now passed, but to a seller on $100,000 that is in pre-foreclosure, that's another $6,000 that they can get back, right? So there are certain buzz terms that a lot of people will use when they're looking for off market. But yeah, the no closing costs, if they're taking care of it for the sellers, that can be very helpful for them. And closing costs, they end up being usually like 1 to 3%.
Are you guys, speaking of that, are you guys familiar with the law that came into place August 17th? The new rule, or I was law, the new rule around agent commission?
Yeah, I just encountered that. I had to sign my agent before she's able to help me to view the property. So yeah, the kind of the universal agreement now that like you had to sign an agreement and then negotiate the commission.
Right.
Taxes, I think that fortunately, looked like a lot of the owner was able to pay majority of the buying agent commission, and I contribute like a small amount of it relatively.
Yeah, it's very different. So historically, sellers would pay both the seller commission, and then usually the sellers would also pay the buyer commission. So if the house is selling for $1 million, they would pay 2.5%. The seller would pay 2.5% to their agent, and then 2.5% to the buyer agent. There's all sorts of law, rules, and essentially collusion. They're saying that the industry was colluding and wasn't the best experience for consumers. So now sellers are no longer, there's not this expectation that sellers will cover the buyer side of the commission. So they'll cover their own seller side of commission, and then the buyers either have to agree with the buyer agent ahead of time to go see the property, or they have to include as part of the offer, hey, I'm offering $1 million to you, but I need the seller to pay a 1 percentage point buyer commission to my buyer agent. So it's a very different situation. I don't know what's going to happen with buyer agents. But that came into effect August 17th.
So
that's kind of a federal thing.
The seller, it doesn't benefit the buyer.
No, it doesn't benefit the buyer. Oh, I mean, okay, that's not, I wouldn't say it's benefit or not. What essentially what it means is, okay, at this point, the buyer needs to ahead of time say, all right, buyer agent, I will go, before you take me to this property, before I buy it with you, I'm going to pay you either a percentage of the purchase price, or I'm going to pay you a flat rate, or whatever it is. From my standpoint, and I'll encourage all of you, and we'll see what Lindsay thinks, as investors, skip the buyer agent. Go straight to the seller agent and say, hey guys, why don't you write me an offer? And I
I
mean,
haven't used a buyer's agent since I bought my primary home 7 years ago.
yeah, a lot of investors don't pay buyer agent commission, and it's a way to get your price reduced. It's a way to, hey, look, I want to buy this property, but I'm not going to ask you to pay any buyer commission. So rather than that, just drop the price by $30,000. Drop the whatever the commission was going to be on the property. You can have ask them to drop that price, the commensurate amount. And so a lot of investors just skip the buyer agent thing completely. So it's not a huge thing for um, for investors, but I'll say, let's say Liza, let's say you want to go buy a new primary residence and you're looking on Zillow and you found a property you really like on Zillow and you go to an open house and you like it. You did all the work. You don't need to pay a buyer agent. Like
I have a buyer agent right now and with the paperwork sitting here. And it's
oh,
sitting here for,
interesting.
so.
Well, they might not like me. Don't say it.
No, I haven't signed and I'm right, second guessing
Yeah,
it.
you need
I'm
to
figuring-
read the fine print. Even when we got this 6 unit that we're under contract for, the initial contract said any house that you or any property you buy until October, I have to be your agent. And Michael and I were like, no, we buy so much stuff off market, like with so many other partners. We're like, you absolutely have to take that out. Like you really do need to read the fine print with that. But I mean, it's good to go directly to the seller's agent because like Lauren said, they are more motivated because then they'll get that whole commission and the sell price, they'll be more motivated to negotiate with the seller to bring it down too. You definitely
I have a
don't.
buyer agent for a primary residence that I'm looking, but I want to go out and do investment on my own.
Mhm.
Can I, if I sign with the buyer agent?
You can, you just need to make
You can,
sure
but-
that
but
verbiage
that-
says it. Yeah.
It says any property, right?
Yep.
Okay. But yeah, I haven't
Good.
signed the addendum here or
Yep.
the amendment on this new fee or.
It's a very interesting time in that sense. I mean, this was all prior to the advent of the internet that this whole structure was put in place. And
Yeah.
now you can go on Zillow and find your dream
Do
home.
all your own work. Yep.
You don't need your agent, a buyer agent, to find it for you. And you can
Yeah.
go to an open house. You can do all that work. Frankly, when I bought my house, same idea, Lindsay. We found it.
Yeah.
We found it. We went to the open house and then we told our agent, "Hey, will you write the offer for us?"
Yes.
And they got
Yeah.
2.5% for that.
Right,
So,
I know, yeah, and yeah, so we're thinking about it, yeah, because as you can imagine, Lauren, Eddie's over it, because like in the neighborhood, and like, he's just, we talk to neighbors, we talk to people, and just everyone knows what's for sale and what's going, and people talk, and
right.
so it's like we're finding out things, and then it's like I have to call that person to show me something that I found.
Right. And
Does it-
exactly. So,
Makes
I mean,
sense.
if you want that representation, you can say, "Hey, I'll pay you $5,000." I don't know. You just know that it's very you can choose, and this really was the point of the NRA law ruling, was that put the choice back into the buyer's hands. So, if you guys have any questions on this as you go through this process, like let me know, or let Lindsay know. We can help you through it because it's a very interesting time that I do think in the end it is a benefit to buyers.
I find.
But do you
Go ahead.
go ahead, Jen? Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, if you choose a buyer agent as your seller's listing agent as your buyer's agent, how do you make sure he or she remain neutral or working for you? Because they want to earn their commission. That who's paid the majority commission is a seller. So I just felt like I'm not sure that they're able to kind of remain neutral, remain kind of not biased towards the seller. I work with an agent and I find that good agent, particularly for me, not familiar the area and a newbie in the investment. I still find the value because local agent really can provide me a lot of information and they can help me to negotiate the purchasing price, and they help me to do lots of groundworks and I think there's a value for the good investment agent.
And when you sign the contract, it'll say that they're acting as a dual agent. I mean, they take an oath when they take their real estate license to be the fiduciary for both sides. They could lose their license if they are not acting in best interest for both parties as the dual agent. So they should take it seriously if they value your license. I mean, there's always the risk, but
right before this call, I actually heard about an agent that is losing their license because they didn't properly represent both sides, as they overstated things, and so it is really serious. So but absolutely isn't, for this particular one, if you're like, I want a buyer agent, I want this, then hire one and feel that comfort as you move forward. Maybe when you're on your 5th property, you'll say, I'm good. I found it. I know the drill. And you'll feel that comfort level. But absolutely, if it's your first one and you feel comfortable and that gives you peace of mind, then do it.
I find that I need hand holding, just kind of going through the process.
and that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not talking against agents or anything. It's just, you don't have to, but for your comfort, if that's what's going to get you out to make an offer and take action, get your buyer's agent.
Yeah.
But do you think we can do it even without a buyer agent if we know someone, directly off market, and we talk and we can do it one-to-one?
Yep, you
Oh,
can.
yeah.
And we have bought houses without any agents whatsoever. Absolutely. We do that all the time.
The 8 unit they bought was directly to the seller, right?
Yeah,
Lindsay?
all the time. The 60 unit we're looking, like, there's no agent, like, there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You just need a legal contract and pretty much, right?
Yep, you need a title company or a lawyer or both, and that even depends on states. Some states don't even use a lawyer; they just go to title companies. Some states, the lawyer is the title company. It depends, but yeah.
And we can help you with that, when you get into that, making sure you
Perfect.
have the right pieces in place.
Perfect.
Could I ask a
Perfect.
question about
We don't always have to go even the buyer agent. We can bypass that.
Yep, you don't need any agent if you go.
And you can get a cheaper price.
Yep.
You just got to feel comfortable.
Yeah. Erica, go ahead.
Sorry. I wanted to ask a question about the BRRRR method. Is there a matrix that is used to ensure that when a property is going to get refinanced, that it's gonna generate positive cash flow? I don't know if you use anything in particular.
Yeah, so it's the same underwriting that you would do from the beginning, because you're plugging in the new rents, you're plugging in the new rates and everything like that. So it's the same, like, synthesis model or cash flow calculator. It's the same tool that you're going to use on the refi too.
Okay.
Same tool. Yep.
And if you need help with that at any point, Erica, I know you're looking, just we can get on and I can show you. And I think once you formalize it and you actually see it, it's pretty clear.
And you're going to do that calculation before you buy the property. You're going to put in the calculations, what the cash flow is on sale that day without anything. And then you're going to do the other model showing what the rents should be projected, the rates and everything that you're projecting in your year or whatever your holding period is going to be. So you're going to be thinking ahead and doing that model before you even buy the property.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So market analysis, this is really important. And as I said, this is all going to be very high level. We're not going into a lot of the detail because I do want to get into our case study. But when you're looking at markets, one of the things that excited me about the fourplex that Zan brought was that, that particular area is growing at 5% annually from a population growth standpoint. Like, that is really strong. So you want to look for that strong growth, low unemployment rate that's business friendly. And then, the more construction and development you see happening in the area, the more investment you see coming into the area, obviously the better. So, keep an eye on that, and then, look at how long are things staying on the market. And it really does fluctuate. I just want to share that with you. It really, my market in Tennessee, everyone, they always go really fast. And then when I had a vacancy in July 1, took me a month to fill it. It's never taken me that long. Normally the rental is filled before the tenant moves out. So that this does ebb and flow. Just know that. And then, supply and demand dynamics. As I said, how quickly are things renting? What's the absorption rate? Is there a big oversupply like they've got in Nashville right now that's going to take several years to absorb and rent out? So you just want to take a look at all of that when you're choosing a market. So action steps for this week, you're choosing your market, as we said, pick 5 properties and just underwrite, start getting into it. If you're looking at single family is a great place to start, or even the 4-plex and under. It's just simple, good place to start. Just perform the underwriting on it, and then the book recommendations, as Lindsay had said, the Buy, Rehab, Rent, Refinance, Repeat by David Green. Get the audibles if you feel like you can't do it. Do it on your commute. Do it on your run. Listen on your runs. Listen on your walks.
There's no excuse. You can
No.
wash dishes, you can cook supper, you can listen to the audiobook.
Yeah, Lindsay had told me that she finished an audio course while she was folding laundry. I'm like, you're so amazing. Like, you just all these
multitask all the time.
Exactly. So you can do it. But okay, I'm excited. We're gonna get into the 4-plex.
I want to add, that was a very fun assignment. I don't know if I really got to the 5. I got all caught up in markets and things, but still, like I learned a lot. It was a very fun assignment, and
Good
I
job,
will.
Liza. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Yeah, it is. It's amazing too, because as you start getting into it, everywhere you go, you start pulling up a realtor app and like the realtor.com app, and like, what do things cost here? What does it rent for though? It's a really fun.
I remember the first weekend, that 3-day real estate course, like before we bought any properties. I remember one of the instructors saying that they're like, it becomes like an addiction. Like you'll literally be going down the street and you're like, oh, that roof, and you're just doing calculations in your mind. And I remember listening to him thinking that sounds crazy. And it is, like, all the time now. I'm like looking, oh, this property and this property. It's fun.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so we're going to look at this 4-plex. Zen had sent it to us this past weekend. It's on market. I thought it was a perfect example for us to show how, all right, we found a property. This one, again, was on market. How would we look at it from start to finish? Like, what would we want to see? So this particular property, and then please chime in however you'd like. This particular property was listed on the market for $650,000. It's a 4-plex, built in 1979. Generally, we like to see 1980 and newer. Not where Lindsay is, but generally, that's ideal. So this is like right on the cusp. But the good thing is it has it's 3 3-bedroom, 2 baths, and then 1 3-bedroom, 1 bath. Generally 3-bed, 2 baths in a nice area, rent and stay rented for a while. So that's great. It's 3 2s tend to keep their occupants. So that's really a great thing. 3-bed, 1 bath are harder to rent typically. Normally, if you have 3 beds, you're going to want another bath. Doesn't mean they don't, but generally they are harder to rent. And just know that going in. If it's a 4-plex with all 3 ones, of all the units, they said on the listing that it was renovated. It got a new roof in 2024, which is fantastic. And separate electric meters for each unit. So that means that each person, based on their consumption, can pay that bill, which is great. Generally, if you don't have that, you're having to get the electric bill and then do what they call a RUBS program, which essentially is the utility bill back program. So it's great. Separate meters. Each tenant will pay based on their consumption, and there's tons of parking on the property. So no issues there. So generally, when I thought it was a great one. And then he had some inquiries, and when he inquired more, so the owner pays for water and trash about $295 per month, and the tenants pay their own electricity. For the water and trash, for this particular purpose, I would say you want to bill that back to the tenants. It really depends on the situation, but generally you'll want to bill it back. Lindsay, do you generally bill back water and trash for your tenants?
We do, yeah. We pay it, but because it's under like the property, the LLC's name as the owner. But yes, we do the RUBS everywhere we can.
So as we go into the cash flow calculator, I did not include that $295 because the intention would be that you pass that cost right on to the tenants. And then
how do you
go ahead.
How do you bill back to the tenant, like, and you will add into the rent, or you send a separate invoice every month?
You send a separate invoice every month. Actually, I remember when I was in med school in Philly, my landlord did that. I had no idea what that was at the time, but he would send me the water bill. I think it was quarterly. He got it. And yeah, then me and the other tenant on the duplex would pay it.
Yeah. For me, yeah,
Oh.
I would email the bill to the tenant as well each month for mine. Okay, and then owner pays $100 per month for lawn care, $223 a month for liability, property insurance. That absolutely could go up, but this is a good benchmark to be able to use actual numbers. New Schedule 4 sewer line under the building. That's a big deal. I mean, having a new sewer line, a lot of these older buildings, we see a lot of sewer issues or sewer backup issues or clogs. The fact that it has this new line is a great thing for maintenance, preventative purposes. And they said all units except unit 2 had plumbing and electrical replaced since 1979. That's also great. And then they said the reason why they didn't replace number 2 was because the family's been living there for 11 years and they didn't want to displace them to fix to update the plumbing and electrical. But the fact that 3 out of the 4 units are updated is great. Especially, well, it's great, but it depends on your strategy. I think for a new investor, it's great because there's less for you to have to deal with. Lindsay would say, "Oh, it's already been updated. I'm out," But for those that don't necessarily want to do those heavy lifts, this is a great one. And then there's laundry in every unit. That's another way you're going to keep tenants long if there's laundry in there. And then the seller has an extra HVAC in storage that they're willing to convey on sale, which, and I didn't see anything on that, but I would imagine they've already updated a lot of the HVACs, and that's why they've got one sitting there. So, okay. And so here's a couple pictures. So when they say it's updated, I always like to see the photos too. Like, look, I mean, clearly that kitchen is not completely updated. It's clean. It's got new floors. I'm sure all the appliances are functioning, but you look at it and you're like, okay, this is not a full renovation in the sense of 2024 standards. But depending on the market, maybe this is all they needed and they put more money in to make it nicer. They wouldn't have gotten the rent out of it to make it worth it. So that may have been why they made this choice. I don't know the market well enough to say. And then you can see
looks when I visited, the actual looks are probably definitely worse than the picture.
Okay.
That's typical. Yeah. That's why
Right.
you walk properties. That's why you walk properties and all of them. You walk all the properties.
I guess these are the before the picture the before rented out. The owner renovated the house. He bought the house 2019 and he kind of did a kind of minimal improvement renovation. So obviously after the 5 year, there's definitely look much inferior than this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also why you get into every unit. If you're buying, even if it's 144 units, you walk every unit, so, but that's great. So that gives you an idea. And if you were to buy this, you can get an idea too in the area. Maybe it will make sense to renovate when you turn it, make it nicer. Maybe you could get significantly higher rents, and we can help you with that when the time comes if you do end up buying it. To determine whether or not it's worth it to make it like a notch higher. Okay, so this was Jose's got that on us. So this was our initial feedback when we looked at it. As I said earlier, the population is growing by 5%. That's excellent. 162,000 a door seems high because remember, to meet the 1% rule, that means these units need to be renting for $1,600 or have the ability to rent for $1,600 to meet that 1% rule. And as we'll see, they don't at this point. So that's something that is important to just know in the back of your mind. The fact that there's several electric meters is great. We said that. New roof, excellent. The 3 2s, great, as we said. The 3 1s, a little bit, take longer to rent. The other thing is it's close to a major highway, and that is really great. Anytime you're close to a highway where people are going to be commuting in and out to work, that's always excellent when it's particularly for multifamily. So that was one of the first things I noticed when he sent it was that it's not only is it close to a major highway, not too close where you're going to hear the noise. It's close though. And also it's close to retail. So it's very close to a Walgreens. And generally speaking, I mean, that's excellent because when you get a Walgreens or a CVS in an area, that means there's a lot of population movement and traffic there. Walgreens isn't opening a location anywhere where they're not going to see massive traffic in the region. So that's always a great sign if you're seeing a drugstore nearby. And and then the other thing I did quickly was I looked and I saw that nearby there was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath single family home renting for $1,600 that looked to be pretty remodeled. So with that as a comparable, a fourplex is going to rent for less than a single family home in the area. So I knew when I saw a single family home for rent for $1,600 that the rents here are going to have to be lower. And then Zen had said he got a mortgage broker, give him a rate of 6.625. Did you call my guy, or my girl, I should say, Linda?
Yeah, I did, but her rate was higher than this.
Higher. Okay. Okay. And then he said you found an agent to represent you for 3% of the purchase price. It's a little bit high, but as you said, if it gives you peace of mind in this one, it's fine. Are you going to pay that on top of the purchase price, or are you going to ask the seller to pay that?
So eventually I clarified with the agent. So the 3% would be split it between me and the seller. Seller will pay 2.5 and I contribute 0.5. So that make it much more affordable.
Okay. Okay. And the cash flow calculator didn't include the commission. So just bear that in mind. The other thing is with points, in this environment, I really don't like the idea of buying points. And the reason why is there's pretty much zero doubt in a year you're going to want to refinance out of this rate. And Lindsay, I don't know if we haven't talked about this, but I would imagine you agree that paying for a point right now, when you're most very likely going to refinance in a year, just doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yep.
I'd rather see you pay the higher rate for 6 months, because we all know rates are going to be lower by December.
Yep.
So what are they charging you for that point? Do you know?
Right. I don't have exactly number for the paying points.
All right. When you have it, like, I'm happy to help you look at it. But at this point, whether you're buying a single family home or you're buying a rental, don't pay for points, because you're going to want out of this loan. I'm sure a year from now you're going to say 6.625. I don't want that.
Yep.
I want the low rate. So
are you saying that if I purchase this point, there's a cost associated with points?
Yeah, you have to buy down the points, they call it. So you'll have to pay, and that varies by the point, but to get the percent lower, you actually have to purchase it up front.
In addition to the 1% of the mortgage, and then so there's a fee associated. Is that
yes.
1% of the loan?
1%, yes.
Yeah. So just look at that, and I don't recommend doing it at this point. The other thing that I have seen some people do lately is ask the seller to add a credit toward the point buy down, and then you kind of get the best of both worlds, not costing you anything, and they're adding they're crediting you for the point costs. So I've seen that recently with this whole agent commission situation. So that's an option as well. But don't you pay for the point. A year from now, you're going to not want this rate anymore, so it's not worth it. So rental income on the property, this is the rental income. It grosses $5,000 a month, 1,300s on the bigger ones, and then 1,100s on the smaller ones. So let's see here. Oh, okay. I'm just going to open up now the cash flow calculator so you can see what I did here. Here it is. Okay, and again, this is the very basic one. This is not the super in-depth one that Michael does. This is the very, very basic one. So you can see here, guys, the monthly rental income is $5,000. I have an 8% vacancy loss. You can adjust that up or down. And that's, one vacancy, which is probably needs to be adjusted up, to be honest. Purchase price $650 if you paid the asking price, with a 25% down payment, closing costs at 1% and 2%. Again, I didn't include the commission in here, so any additional commission needs to be added here. But the loan amount then is $487. Again, if you pay the asking price. So at the rate you're given, I'm sorry.
You're trying to show the calculator, so I only see the PowerPoint right now.
Say that one more time.
Are you trying to show your that calculation?
Yes.
Right now I only
see the screen share must not be picking up, Lauren. It just says Texas fourplex rental income.
Oh, sorry guys. Hang on. We'll try this again. I'm talking to myself apparently. Sorry about that. All right, can you see it now?
Yes.
All right, so here it is, the $5,000 a month in rent. And then if you pay the asking price at $650, you know, your down payment would be 25%, closing costs, and then your loan amount $487 if you paid the asking price. Debt service at the rate you were given is $3,100 a month. Property taxes, the agent estimated to be $500 a month. Insurance is not included above, is $223. Lawn care, as he said, management fee if you go that route. If you don't, we can take that out. If you plan to self-manage it, we can have no management fee, and then maintenance reserve. So let's say you plan to self-manage it. Right now, we're looking at $400 a month in cash flow and a 3% return on capital. Now, very, very likely, this will be refinanced within 12 months. So that debt service payment will go down, at which point your return on capital will increase. So it really is, you know, it's rare to see anything that cash flows or at these rates. So, you know, I like buying anything that cash flows at these rates, given that the opportunities. And then the agent you have, do they have visibility on whether or not the current rents are market rent, or if they're above or below?
So there is not much count to compare, just because the it's fourplex and it's not many you can compare, but it probably he's been increased, the owner been increased the rental every year, it looks like, just based on the last few years rent road. I don't exactly current, like based on, I have nothing really compare just by the property.
Well, yeah, I noticed that too. I didn't see anything. So sometimes I like to ask local property managers or agents if they know, because if it's their market. But you know, this would be a great opportunity if there is a chance to increase rents to do that. I will say, if a single family home that's 3.2 is renting for $1,600, it's probably correctly priced to be at $1,300 to be in a quad. So this looks like it's probably the right rental, like the market rents. But certainly, I mean, I think it's good. I think if you could get the price reduced, get a little bit more off the top, if you can get
the price reduced. I mean, looking at the picture, update the kitchen. I think you can probably push that a little bit more, though.
Yeah.
I think it's a great potential property.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I don't normally see ones at cash flow at the actual asking price, and
right, yeah.
So yeah, so that's great. We're excited to see you do it, and if you have questions on it as we move forward with the process, you know, you've got our numbers. Like, please call us and get the information, or you know, ask us anything.
Yeah, I think that I sit down with my agent after viewing this property, so we kind of proposing like our negotiation price, and then so that's kind of the next step moving forward. And I've been asking the mortgage loan broker, and he was able to provide that rate. And so I will talk about, you know, what's the rate without point. So that will be also something, more information coming in soon.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and also ask if there's any prepayment penalty. So you're going to want to refinance this as soon as possible. So you don't want any prepayment penalty. So let's say rates are at 5% in spring. If rates are in 5% in April, you're going to want to refinance, and you're not going to want to pay any penalties. So make sure.
It depends on the bank too. Some banks, like our local bank, if we refinance through them, we don't have to pay the penalty. But if we would refi through like another bank or something like that, you do have to pay. So it depends. The small print matters in something like that.
All right. Are there any questions on that or anything else that we've talked about?
Yeah, quick question, you know, looking at the numbers, Lauren, if you got a chance, do you go and buy this property, this fourplex, you know, with all your experience and background? Because it doesn't really meet the 1% off threshold, what we talked about.
Yeah, it doesn't. Excuse me. For me, I'm looking for a little bit more of a heavy lift right now, because I'm wanting to do more BRRRR strategy type of properties. But absolutely my first couple were
Yeah.
turnkey like this. So
Yeah. I would definitely make an offer on it.
yeah.
As a learning point of view, since you guys, let's suppose that's the way I'm thinking. Since I have your experience behind my back, if I go and jump into it, I will ask you, what do you think, what makes
Of
sense?
course. Yep.
Because owning properties in Houston, Texas, and getting not a 1% return, as I was talking in my previous class with you, I'm thinking to sell it out and move somewhere where I can get at least 1% of the price, right? Yeah, that at least make number makes sense for me, and that's why I always try to thinking from having mentors with me so I can make the best out of my money.
Yep. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's why taking my money out of the Texas market and move somewhere where I can using your experience. That was in my mind. That's why I asked you this question.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's, I mean, it really depends on your risk appetite as well. Like I said, I like the BRRRR strategy here, but I think I'd offer less in Dan's position than their asking price, certainly. But it really just depends on what your risk appetite is. So if you're thinking that you want to get into some of the heavy lifts and, to get into some of the bigger upside, but also more risk, I mean, that's the way to go. So, but I think this is a great first one for someone, someone like Zen. Just got to buy it at the right price. It's a little overpriced.
Let's get a
I have
picture,
a
guys.
question.
Everybody's here. It always reminds me when everybody's like little blocks are all.
Erica and Jose, any chance you can come on the camera? Yeah.
Hey, they're paying attention. Good job.
1, 2, 3. All right, there we go. Good. Sorry, Jug, what was your question?
Yes, so I know, so it was actually really great exercise that, trying to calculate how much cash flow it's, and I know the more cash flow you get, it's better. Like when you look at it, how I know it's more is better, but if the cash flow is 250, is that a kind of a good to start to think about it? Or how much you guys usually look at when you look at the cash flow? I'm sure it's depending on how big the property is and what you're trying, a turnkey is different from a BRRRR method, but
yeah. I know
I
at the
think of it
beginning
like return on cap. Oh, go ahead, Lindsay.
Oh no, at the beginning I asked a very similar question in that 3-day and they said at least $100 per door. And that's actually one of the exercises they did with us at the beginning is how many doors would it take at $100 a door to become financially free? Like how much passive income would you need a month based on, now that was, 6 years ago and inflation and everything. So maybe now I think $200 a door. But any cash flow, you certainly don't want to be buying negative at all. Obviously more is better, but yeah, I mean, at least
I look at it like return on capital, right? So if it's okay, I'm going to put $100,000 down on this property and it's going to cash flow $1,000 a month. Okay, that's going to give me a 1% return on my capital. Now you got appreciation and tax advantages and all of those things. But generally I'm I can get 4% in a high yield savings. Obviously you're not getting the tax advantages and all the amazing things with real estate. But for me on a general level, if I'm going to put 100,000 in, I'd like to see, at least 6 or 7%. But then you've got the infinite returns if you're burring, you got no money in the deal. So that takes that off the table. But for me, yeah, I'd like to see, 6 or 7% cash on cash if I'm going to be putting, planting money somewhere for a while.
And also so last week I think I texted you guys and then I'm looking at population growth, school system, crime rate, and I stopped in oh, this might be really good property. Then oh my God, this is D class. D. No, never mind. Yeah, never mind. And then I'm looking at okay, oh, this is good one. Then oh, population growth is negative. And then there's never be the perfect one. And I know there's not.
That's where I got stalled. That's why I never got
And
to
then I got oh my gosh, where I'm like,
It
trying
doesn't
to
mean
find the
that you
perfect-
can't, right? I mean, we still own and buy in places where technically the population growth isn't growing, but there's still people living there. There's still people that need to rent. And you know, your question was Bucks County. Like we are actively buying in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So you don't have to get completely hung up. I would definitely stay away from the D class or like high crime rates. Like that's kind of a no-go, but
How do you know what is C class and D class? Sorry if that's a silly question. And how do you know?
yeah, so there's A, B, C, and D class. D class is like worst high crime rate, rundown houses, drugs, needs a lot of fixing up. A class is like brand new builds, the best school systems, and then there's B and C in the middle. B class, still very nice houses, maybe 15 to 20 year built, not brand new, still good school systems. C class is more the working class. In one of the modules, maybe Lauren, you know, all these modules like 4.8.1 or whatever off the top of your head, but there's definitely like charts. We haven't covered that yet, and it might be the next module.
Check out the link that Jose just put in the chat. Sorry.
Are they ranked? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They ranked, or is it just
Yeah, this is great. Crimegrade.org. Thanks, Jose.
okay.
Oh, and Rent-A-Meter. We shared that one last week, but that's always great. Yep.
You're on fire, Jose.
I love it. Are there any other questions? Well, I'm really excited about the progress, and I'm excited about, what we'll be able to share with you guys next week. And please, Zan, as you move forward, for anyone, just reach out to us. Anyone.
I will be very happy if I start to see people asking questions like, hey, I started the underwriting on this. It meets some of my buy boxes. Like that will get me so happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep looking at properties.
Lauren, I'm going to share on Sunday. I'll share my Clarksville, Tennessee, because I just looked up the zip code and it's A.
Oh,
there you go. There you go.
Perfect. It's Tennessee. Liza spent so much time in Tennessee for work, so that's a great spot for.
That makes sense for me. So that's good. But thank you. Helpful.
So and if you guys want to schedule time with any of us, I met with several of you this past week and it was great. So
my week is much more open next week. Last week I was in Florida at real estate with some of our partners all weekend. We missed you, Lauren. And I had a lot of other work commitments, but next week my schedule's pretty open. So yeah, I can definitely talk to some more people.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
We'll get the recording out to you guys tomorrow in an email.
And one more thing before I ask you, as a beginner, you guys prefer us to start with a C class or a B class?
It all depend. Everybody's going to be different. So, like you might not want to get into that. You just want A class turnkey. That's fine. Some people might be more or less risk averse than I am, and they're okay with more of a heavy lift. So that's very personal. I would say just overall avoid D class. Do not go into D class. You're going to have a lot of headaches.
My first rental was an A class and Lindsay's first was a heavy lift, like big rig B class. It just really depends on your risk appetite. I mean, I wouldn't. So yeah, just kind of self audit yourself, and you want to feel good and excited and not terrified. So.
Perfect. As long as number makes sense, that's all. All is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Just send it to us, and we'll take a look at it and make sure everything looks good.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Have a good night. Bye, guys.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.